Hello everybody and welcome to Ingress Point. Today we're going to do something a bit different. The scene to stats for Inferno Squad has just been released by Atomic Mass, so let's just kind of jump into that and do some hot takes because I'm quite excited about them and I want to talk about them. So I'm doing this just before I go to bed. Let's go. So Commander Auden Versio, she's your primary. She's got 8 squad points, 3 force points, pretty standard, 9 stamina, 3 durability, so slightly low on the stamina side, but perfectly normal durability, kind of regular stats you'd expect. So I won't talk too much about her ability because she's been spoiled for a while and I've talked about them in other videos, but she gives stuff movement with some conditions. She gets ways of improving her dice and she can hand out some conditions. But the thing I mainly want to talk about today is her two stance cards, just because there's something on here that we've never seen before. So first of all, her full auto side, 5 defense dice against range, 4 in melee, 8 range dice, which is going to be going up to 10 with your focus sharpshooter 1, and then 6 in melee. And she's got decent special forces armor expertise, so getting 2 blocks for a single expertise is great, although it does kind of peter out the more you roll, although she hasn't got that high dice total, so you're probably not going to be getting those high numbers very often. It does suggest defensively she's going to want to kind of hang back and be more of a support character, which isn't too surprising, I suppose, given her role in the video games. But the really interesting thing is if we look at her attack expertise charts. So for example, TL50 heavy blaster, 1 to 2. This is on the full auto side. You get a crit and turn one of your opponent's blocks to a fail. So this is quite interesting, and there's a few things to point out about it. One, it's essentially a hit, but worse. So for example, if this expertise was just 1 to 2, gives you a crit and a hit, I think that's just strictly better. And there's a few reasons for that. One is your opponent might not roll any blocks. They might just totally whiff, for example, and in that case this does nothing. So most of the time your opponent will roll some blocks, and this will do something, and it will be equivalent to a hit. But sometimes it won't, and you won't get the chance to spike quite as high as you would have otherwise. The other thing to note is, in terms of the order things happen, you will apply your expertise effects before the defender applies theirs. So for example, if your opponent rolls all expertise, you won't be able to turn any blocks to fails, and then they will use their expertise to perhaps generate some blocks, which you will then be unable to modify. So there's limitations to it, but at the same time it's potentially quite strong. So for example, like 3 expertise giving you what most of the time will be crit hit is pretty good. In terms of how much damage she can do, what is it, 4, it was like 7 on that side, on the full auto side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on her burst fire side. So one thing to note on the full auto side is there's this real pinch point, or not pinch point, but kind of the difference between 3 successes and 4 successes is big, because neither of the 4 success options have any damage on them. So you're doing 4 damage if you get 3 or 4, and then you need to get an extra success on top of that to start doing extra damage. And also the first pin, annoyingly, isn't until the 3rd and 4th square, so I'm not the biggest fan necessarily of this full auto one, although you do get enough dice that it's probably okay. But it's kind of an interesting and slightly awkward layout. The burst fire, I think, it seems more consistent to me. So a crit for 1 expertise is fine, 2 crits for 2 to 3, and then you start getting this block to a fail once you get your heavy blaster up to 4+. The melee is exactly the same, although she does have an extra defense dice on the burst fire side. So I think, honestly, most of the time I think I'm going to spend a lot of the time with Aiden in burst fire, and then only switching to it if for some reason I need to get 2 shoves with her. But overall, I think she's interesting. I'm really excited to see how she plays out, just because she does feel a bit different to what we've seen before, and I'm really intrigued to see if this block to fail thing on expertise works out any differently to how I'm expecting. But anyway, let's carry on. So Gideon Hask is the secondary. We've not seen anything of him before, so let's kind of dive into everything. So Long Live the Empire, amusingly, also belongs to the other Gideon. Moff Gideon is the exact same thing. And as we've talked about when we talked about Gideon, it's good. So the real question in my mind is, do you bring both Gideon with the intent of using Long Live the Empire a lot? My instinct is no, you probably want to only be using it sparingly, because 2 damage is quite a lot, even with the condition of not being able to wound your own guys with it. I think you just whittle yourself down quite quickly if you use this a lot. So, but then again, it is a very strong ability, so maybe just using it and hammering your guys into the ground and winning just in time is going to be where this shines. But I think it's definitely interesting, and I think it's cool for a secondary to have such a powerful ability. Covert Ops, exact same as Iden, definitely good. May we live up to our name as an innate. So when this unit is wounded, after the effect is resolved, one character in this unit can dash and make a 5 dice attack targeting the character that wounded it. So that's pretty good. Like, you're never going to complain about being able to respond like that. There's no conditions on it in terms of like range, or if it has to be a range attack or a melee attack. So that's just really solid. It's innate, so you never cost any force. Yeah, that's just really good. And then Defiance will be the death of you, which is something somewhat unique. I think we've not seen it before in Shatterpoint. When a Galactic Empire character makes an attack as part of a combat action, so it does have to be an action, if the target is within 5 of one or more other allied Galactic Empire scout characters, i.e. Inferno squad, it adds a hit to the attack roll. So one way you can parse this is essentially supporting fire add a hit, although rather than it being on each individual unit's card, it's just on Gideon Hask's card, and it doesn't say anything about it, not being wounded. It's an innate, so it won't increase. So it never costs force. So as you get wounded, it won't cost you more and more force to use this. So basically, it's just kind of supporting fire across a lot of your squad. Range 5 is very generous, and it kind of will increase the damage of all of your units. And I think this is probably the reason that Iden has this and the others have, because he also has the block to a fail, because you're generating hits this way, so you're doing this quirky other thing to kind of work alongside it. So yeah, I'm excited. I think that's really cool. Defensively, he's got 8 stamina, 2 durability, so 8 is maybe a little on the low side. No, it's about average, but 9 is generally where you want your secondaries to be. Although he does have good defensive expertise, getting a block and a heal for 1, 2 blocks and a heal for 2 and 3, and then 5 dice, both in range and melee. So he's decent in that regard. And then his tree is, here it is again, it's Captain Rex's shape, and it is very similar in terms of you can go damage along the top, or you can go shoves along the bottom, at least for the early results, and then converging. And he also has an expertise damage, so you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we could potentially one-shot a lot of stuff in the game if he rolls well. And his expertise, is fine. Nothing particularly special to write home about. Although his advanced combat training is pretty good, and he does also have a heal at the end. So it's he could work well with Darth Vader, I think. As a character goes, which you wouldn't necessarily expect because he has sharpshooter and he's kind of a ranged guy, but I think he can get up and in the mix and punch some stuff and do some work if that's the way you wanted to go. Okay, let's move on. Next is Del Miko, the sniper. So again, this is totally new, we've not seen any of it, so let's go through his abilities first. Trick shot is the same as Crosshair. It's pretty good. Pick a character that's not engaged, or if Del Miko isn't engaged, choose an enemy unit in line of sight. They either suffer damage or removes all of its hunger. Like, it's pretty good. It means you know, if you're playing Dell as he's meant to be played and just kind of hanging back and staying safe, he basically does an extra damage. So, you know, you could potentially kill 2 things in a turn on this. It's not amazing, to be honest. I think it's pretty good, but I mean, I love it when you can just do the last bit of damage to something and then shoot something else. But I don't know, it's nice to have. I don't think it's particularly amazing. He has covert ops. Everybody's got it. It's good. Deadeye. He has sharpshooter 2, and when he makes a ranged attack, the target does not benefit from cover. So we've seen that a lot before. It's interesting that this does combo with. I've checked this. It combos the 2 sharpshooters. So in a turn where he covert ops, he will have sharpshooter 3. So he'll be getting up to 10 dice, which is pretty spicy. And then the thing that really kind of blew my mind when I read the card is Special Forces Sniper. So this unit may make a combat action up to 2 times during this activation instead of the normal 1. So that's a first. He just gets to attack twice. Yeah, it's good. That's good. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's innate. It doesn't cost any force. Attacking twice is good. So his kind of gameplay ideal will be trick shot, covert ops, shoot something twice. Which, you know, when you say it like that, that's a lot of stuff that he's doing. Although he does come with the negative of being a support with only 1 body, so he's not contesting objectives as well as others. So he really is a kind of classic sniper, and that he is going to be hanging back and not necessarily, you know, running forward and claiming objectives. He is just going to be trying to shoot stuff. If we look at his expertise, his damage isn't spectacular. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the highest he can go. And interestingly, his 1 to 2 expertise is a shove. So that limits how far he's going to get along his track. I think on his first shot, say if he's attacking twice, his first shot and he's focused, he'll have 10 dice. His second attack will have 6. So I think you can kind of expect to get quite far along his track on that 10 dice attack, but not so much on his 6 dice attack because of this expertise. It's interesting also that he only gets 1 shove, and that shove comes from this expertise. So if he has been disarmed, he's not shoving somebody. If he's ever shooting someone with steadfast, he's not shoving them. So that's, you know, limiting in how effective he is. But I mean, it's very interesting. I think people have been perhaps overreacting to how good this is, but it's definitely good. But I think his tree is limiting enough that it's not OP. I'll definitely say that. And he is also going to be contesting the Imperial Special Forces for that support slot, at least within one of your squads. So these guys, again, we've seen the front of the card. They can remove a damage and 1 condition from itself with a tactic. That's pretty good. Can't be pinned. It's slightly more durable than you'd expect. It's got covert operations just like everyone else. And then it can infiltrate. So deploy within range 3 of the first place character from that squad's primary unit instead of the normal 1. So they can get quite far up the board, which I quite like. And I'll kind of talk why once we look through their stance card. So this is extremely reminiscent of Republic Commandos. I mean, very reminiscent. I would say it's probably about the same, almost exactly, even at the reposition at the end. But they can do quite a lot of damage, up to 8, which is good for a support. Generating a crit on your first expertise is good, although no shoves, and that's the same negative that the Commandos have. But what I quite like about these guys is I like the idea of infiltrating, doing a covert operations, and making your attack, potentially getting as far along as, you know, your reposition, and deciding after you've done your attack where it makes sense to go. And if you don't get that reposition, you can still then do your move action. So on turn 1, you're kind of making your moves with as much information as you can, after seeing how your attacks go. So I quite like that. And that's it. So yeah, that's the hot takes video. I'll dive into them a lot more, I think, with some proper kind of squad building and some in-depth thought. But I don't know, I was excited when I read it, so I just thought I would make a quick video and see what people thought. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think. Have I missed anything? Quite probably, because I've tried to race through this a bit. But yeah, let me know. Let me know what kind of squads you're expecting to put them in. And wahoo! See ya!